Really sorry you had to see that, but I will try to make up for it with today's update. Again, I'm Jessica Valdez. I'm the administrator of the Interim Assessment and Digital Library Office at CDE. I'm so happy to be here today to share what's new with the Smarter Balanced Digital Library and Interim Assessments for this school year. So over the next 15 minutes or so, we'll be focusing on some substantial system enhancements to both the digital library and the interim assessments, as well as some new resources that are available to help you promote the digital library and interims back at your LEAs. I'll also be letting you know about some upcoming training opportunities if you are interested in getting more detail about the information in today's update. And I do want to, I know it's been mentioned a couple of times already this morning, but many of the system enhancements that have been made to the digital library and the interims are a direct result of feedback from you and your colleagues in LEA. So I want to just first give a big thank you to those of you who have contributed feedback, and please keep the feedback coming. So over the summer, Smarter Balanced made a number of enhancements to the digital library, starting with the introduction of the digital library storefront. You see a screenshot of the top part of the storefront on this slide. The storefront essentially serves as a window into the digital library without actually having to log into it. It can be very handy for communicating with stakeholders who may be interested in learning more about the content of the digital library, but may not have access to it, such as parents, maybe members of the media. There are a number of links to sample resources from within the library, as well as links to videos of educators talking about how they use the library, videos demonstrating different features within the library. There are also 2 links specifically for LEA staff at the top of the library. You see those on this screen. There is a login button, and then for LEA staff who may not already have I'm going to raise my microphone here. Okay. For LEA staff who may not already have a digital library account, there is a button to that self-registration interface that we've mentioned a couple of times this morning. So once logged into the digital library, you'll see a number of enhancements within the library, starting with the digital library landing page, which is shown on this slide. So prior to this school year, there were a series of resource filters that appeared at the top of the landing page that users could select from to guide their search for formative assessment resources within the library. Well, now in place of those filters are links to the 3 main types of formative assessment resources within the library: professional learning resources, instructional resources, and playlists. And I'll talk a little bit more about the playlists in just a few minutes. But once a user selects one of those 3 options, the system generates a personalized list of digital library resources that is based on the content area or areas and the grade levels that have been selected by that user in their account profile. So this is a major enhancement. It's basically a complete overhaul of the search interface. Now, those filters that I mentioned that used to appear at the top of the digital library landing page are still available. Many of them are still available. They just appear in the menu on the left-hand side of the screen. You can sort of see them on this screenshot. Here's a little bit of a closer up view. So users can further narrow or expand their resource search by selecting or deselecting from those filters. There is a new filter that is available, and that's for target alignment. So if an educator is interested in finding resources that are specific to a target, they can make that selection from that same menu. Now, we've heard from many LEAs that one way that they have found to be very effective in getting their educators engaged with the digital library is by providing them with that dedicated time to explore the library, be it at staff meetings or other professional learning events and opportunities. So over the summer, the department developed and released a resource that is intended to assist LEAs in supporting that effort of providing that dedicated guided exploration through the digital library. And it's with this resource, there are a few pages of it displayed on this slide. It's called Digging into the Smarter Balanced Digital Library, and it provides guided exploration through the digital library with a series of tasks that sort of follow the path of an archaeological dig. It's meant to be a fun activity, fun, engaging activity, and it guides users through progressively specific searches within the library to locate resources that would best meet their needs. It can be used either in group settings or as an individual. The front part of the resource actually provides a number of scenarios in which LEAs might consider using this resource and time estimates for how long it might take to get through. So we encourage you to check it out. This resource is also going to be the focus of one of the sessions at the CASP Institute that takes place early next year. So if you are interested in actually working through this resource, see it being used in action, we encourage you to check out that specific session of the CASP Institute. And I do want to mention that for all of these resources on these slides, or for most of them, the URL where you can access them is provided at the bottom of this slide. So another way that LEAs may find effective in engaging teachers with the digital library is by demonstrating how the digital library and interim assessments can be used in conjunction with one another. And so I'm going to take us back a few minutes to when I mentioned the digital library playlists. They really are a key resource within the digital library. The playlists essentially provide a collection of digital library resources. Many of them are specific to an interim assessment block. So we encourage you to check those out. Those are not new resources, but Smarter Balance is continuing to add to them. CDE has released a number of playlists. All of the playlists are available both in the digital library and on the CDE public website. And I do want to call out one specific playlist because it is a recent addition to CDE's collection of playlists, and it's sort of hidden because it's the first one here, but it's part of the Professional Learning Series playlists, which are not specific to interim assessment blocks, but they are specific to various topics about assessment literacy, formative assessment, and then the newest addition is supporting student accessibility needs. So within each of these playlists, there are hyperlinks to the digital library resources, and just to note that a digital library account is required to actually get into the library and access the resource, but the fact that they are all on one page and there are hyperlinks embedded make them very convenient resources. So I think we've mentioned earlier that we had quite a successful year with the interim assessments, certainly much more successful than the San Francisco Giants here. We had over 7 million interim assessments started across California and across nearly 1,600 LEAs. We certainly understand, though, that not all educators are familiar with the interim assessments, and there may be some stakeholders that are interested in learning more about the interim assessments. Parents, for example, who may have students participating in interim assessments. So part of the back to school toolkit that was mentioned by Mao a little bit ago is the interim assessment fact sheet. This is a new resource, and it's a really nice, just a basic introduction to the interim assessments. Sort of provides the who, what, where, why, and when of the interim assessments. Starting with the basics, that there are two types of interim assessments. There are the interim comprehensive assessments, or ICAs, and the interim assessment blocks, or IABs. So another new resource that we're excited to let you know about is this Interim Assessments at a Glance. And for folks who are very familiar with using the interim assessments, you may be curious about what is new with the interim assessments for this year, what interim assessments are new for this year. So Smarter Balanced has released 7 new math IABs and 13 revised ELA IABs. And this at-a-glance document provides, at a glance, for each grade, which interim assessment blocks are available, and it does call out those new and revised blocks. For those 7 new math blocks, most of those blocks are at the high school level. We also just recently released a 7-page PDF of interim assessment hand scoring tables. The hand scoring tables were available in previous years, but they were only on a scrolling web page. They didn't print out so nicely. For this year, we're happy to offer this PDF. There's 1 grade per page, and for each grade, it lists all of the interim assessments, both the blocks and the comprehensives that are available, as well as the number of items on each one of those interims, and the number of items that require hand scoring. So we hope this will come in handy, particularly for LEAs that are trying to select which interims they may want to use based on the hand scoring requirement. And just a reminder that a really great way to prepare to administer the interim assessments or use the interim assessments in a professional learning environment is by getting familiar with them through the interim assessment viewing system. The viewing system is not new, it's been around for quite a while, but just a reminder about this really valuable resource that essentially provides educators with a way to take a peek into the interim assessments and see them exactly how the students will see them when they take the assessments. We did recently release a quick reference guide that provides instructions, step-by-step instructions on how to get into the viewing system. And while it is pretty intuitive, just having this handout available can be a really easy way to remind staff of the availability of this great resource. So we encourage you to check that out. Now, there really aren't many major changes to the test delivery interface for the interim assessments for this year, but there is a change to one setting that we wanted to be sure to point out today. It's to the manner of administration setting, which has been available for quite some time now, but there's a change in how that setting is adjusted within the test delivery system. So one of the most common questions or requests that we received when the manner of administration setting was made available to LEAs was to have the ability to set this at the test session level. Previously, it was only able to be set at the individual student level. So that adjustment has been made in the system, and actually educators will find, test administrators will find that when they go in to select the interim assessment from the test menu, they will be prompted to set the manner of administration for the entire test session. Now, that setting can be overridden for an individual student, and the tip sheet that is available on this setting will explains how to do that, how to set the manner of administration, and then how to override it if need be. Just a reminder, this setting is unique to the interim assessments. You will not see that on the summative assessments. And it doesn't in any way impact the way in which scores are reported. but it does impact in the reporting system the designation of standardized or non-standardized. So that can just sort of be a trigger to someone who is who plans to interpret interim assessment results to maybe possibly alter the way in which they might interpret results. If it's administered in a non-standardized manner, maybe if it was used in more of a formative manner, you might want to interpret results differently than if it was administered in a standardized manner. Okay, now the finale, the fireworks. We are so excited to let you know about a major enhancement to the interim assessments, probably the biggest enhancement to the interim assessments since they were made available 3 years ago. And that is the availability of the new interim assessment reporting system. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to get into it too much today, but we wanted to let you know about some of the highlights. So before we take a peek into the interim assessment system, I wanted to let you know a little bit of preliminary information about it. So development of this new reporting system has been in the works for quite some time. And Smarter Balanced worked very closely with CDE staff as well as staff from a number of LEAs throughout the state. And I want to thank those LEAs that provided feedback. You know who you are, and we look forward to continuing collaboration with you. But we're so happy to report that so many of the requests that we received from LEAs are now available in the new reporting system. So it was launched on September 5th along with the interim assessments for the 17-18 school year. It does contain legacy data. So the new reporting system will display results from previous school years, but only at the same level of detail that it was available in those past school years. So all of the new features that we're going to talk about today, those apply specifically to the 17-18 results and beyond. So just keep that in mind. There are a couple of important guides that you should be aware of to assist you in using the reporting system and interpreting interim assessment results. Both of those guides are available here on this landing page that you see on this slide. They're there at the bottom. The first one I want to call out is the user guide. This is the system user guide. This tells you how to navigate through the system. The second guide is the interpretive guide, which you'll see on the left-hand side of the landing page at the bottom. The interpretive guide is really an interpretive guide for interim assessment scores. So now that I have these scores, how do I make sense of them? Two very valuable resources. And for those of you who may be familiar with the CDE's interim assessment user guide, which is essentially a collection of all of the interim assessment systems, from test delivery to hand scoring to reporting. We link to these two guides from within our department's user guide, and that user guide will be available here within the next week or so online. Another important point that I want to make before we take a peek into the system is that one of the new features of the new reporting system is the ability to create student groups so that teachers' access to interim assessment results can be restricted to just their students. There's not a limit to the number of groups that can be established, but that was a common request that we had received from LEAs, was the ability to restrict access to just the teachers' groups. Previously, the only way to provide access to the interim assessment results was by providing access to all of the student results within a school or district. So we're happy to announce that that is a new feature, but with that new feature comes a new user role. And I won't get into the details today, just wanted to make sure that this is on your radar. An email was sent out to LEA CASP coordinators on September 11th that provided more details about assigning that new user role that allows a teacher to receive access to just a subset of students. Okay, so be sure to check that out, and if you have any questions, you'll want to contact the California Technical Assistance Center for further information. So this slide provides really just a handful of the new resources that are available, the new features that are available in the new reporting system. And I'm not going to go through every single one, but there are 3 in particular that I wanted to call out because they address some of the most frequently requested enhancements that we had heard from LEAs. So first is the ability to view aggregate student results. That's group level results for students. That is now available in the system. The ability to view student responses to test items is also available, as well, as well as the ability to view detailed item information. So on the next slide, we're going to take a peek into the system for those 3 particular features. One thing also that I wanted to mention, the last bullet refers to the ability to access links to digital library resources. And those links are actually linking to those playlists that we mentioned earlier. So right now, there are only about a dozen playlists available for about a dozen interim assessment blocks. Over the coming months, Smarter Balanced is going to be releasing additional blocks or additional playlists for additional blocks, and those will be added to the reporting system as they become available. Okay, just note to yourself. Okay, so we have an animated slide here. So this is a screenshot of those aggregate student results that I just mentioned. The average scale score, the aggregate result for this group, is displayed in the middle of the screen. Well, actually, I guess it would be on the right-hand side of the screenshot in that gray box. All of these data that are displayed are just pretend data, so they may not necessarily make sense, but that is the aggregate score 2417 along with the along with the standard error. And right below that is the number of students that are in that particular group. You can see there are 18 students in the group. So that's how the aggregate results are displayed in the new reporting system. If you wanted to view results for a specific student, you can see right under that top area is the list of students. And to the left of each student's name, there is a little icon that has 3 dots in it. And by clicking on that icon, it pulls up a little pop-up box that gives you the option to view the responses for that student. So if you would click on that, it would take you to a screen that would look something like this. The test item has been blurred out for today's purposes, but in the system you would see the actual interim assessment item with the student's answer or response indicated within the item. And then at the top of that tab is the answer key. You can see it says key and provides the correct answer. And you could go through each of the items on the interim to view that information. Now you might see there is a tab 2 over from the one that is selected here. It's called item information, and that's where you'll be able to see that detailed item information that I mentioned. So if we click on that tab, you can see just really a great amount of item level detail that's provided on this screen, including the claim, the target, the Common Core state standard with which this item is aligned, the depth of knowledge, the item difficulty, and so much more. So again, we're so excited that this is available. We cannot wait to start hearing feedback from LEAs as they start administering the interim assessments, digging into the reporting system to access this information. Smarter Balanced is already prioritizing enhancements for the reporting system that will likely roll out next spring. And so it's really important that we do hear from you about what you think about the reporting system and what other sorts of enhancements you might like to see. Another key piece of information that I meant to mention earlier, and I'm really excited about this as well, is the reduced amount of time that it's going to take to get your results in the reporting system. You might remember in previous years, it could take a day or so for those results to get from either the test delivery system into the reporting system, or maybe from the hand scoring system into the reporting system. Well, now that processing time is taking less than 20 minutes. So we're so happy about that reduced amount of time, and hope that it has a positive impact for you as you engage with the interim assessments this school year. So there are a couple of training opportunities that are actually going on right now. We wanted to be sure to let you know about. And those are the statewide interim assessment hand scoring workshops and the statewide digital library and interim assessment clinics. They're each about a half-day workshop, and they are taking place at 10 locations throughout the state. 3 have been held already, I think mostly in Northern California, so we have 7 offerings left. If you are interested in learning more about what you heard in today's very brief update, contact Caltech. I know that there is still space available at some of the locations. And those are taking place through October 26th. A great way to keep up to date on all things CASP is through the CASP listserv. We send out a weekly update that provides the latest information not only on the digital library and the interim assessments, but all of the CASP assessments. And so I encourage you to subscribe to that listserv if you're not already subscribed. Also, always feel free to contact the California Technical Assistance Center for any additional information, or for any policy-related information, never hesitate to contact us at the CASP office at CDE.